All right, Luka Nation, like a German clock, 3 p.m., and we're ready to rock.
I thought the Swiss clocks.
Is it
No,
Swiss? Is that what it is?
I mean Germans kind of do everything good, I guess. So
They,
I mean,
they do. Their trains are always on time, and that's what we are. That's the bread we are. We have fun, we banter, but
they
we
make good
also have
beer.
built a really, really, really special community, and people are already joining. So it looks like they were looking forward to this. We already got, what is this, 20 people on? Who knows?
Whew, stay on.
Luka Nation, episode 572, and this is one I've been looking forward to for quite some time. You guys already know we're partnered with SGC, and how that partnership has developed, we'll get into as we kind of talk about this episode. The person across from me, Peter Steinberg, CEO of SGC. From the outside looking in, it seems like you've done a fantastic job with the company, right? Was it 22 days return time on 25-day grading? The community loves you. SGC cards keep climbing, climbing, climbing in resale value. The team is growing. No issues, no complaints. So I'm really excited to have you on today, Peter. And we'll get into a million questions that the audience had, all that stuff. But first, I want to welcome you to the show and say thank you for being here. And thank you for being such a great partner to Luka Nation.
Yeah, man, it's my pleasure. I'm really happy to be here. I love the style you guys bring, that kind of authentic, I is what I is. And I think I drive well with that. So hopefully I could kind of inform some people while letting them know, who's running SGC, believe it or not.
Come on, don't sell yourself short. So listen, I'll set the stage a little bit from some of our discussions, and then we'll let you get into it. Whatever you want to tell people about SGC, we know with a recent announcement, maybe a behind the scenes kind of what's going on there, and you name it. But when we started chatting with you about a Luka Nation and SGC, the one thing we were most concerned about is, we're gonna tell our folks that they could use SGC. Right, and there are definitely specific cards that SGC is probably really, really good for, and to go ahead and use it. And if we start talking about SGC, Luka Nation is going to use the grading, right? So what we asked was, be honest with us, right? If it's going to be bad, it's going to be bad. If you're going to have a backlog, learn from the last couple of years, learn from 2020, you name it. And what you said basically was, and what we love is, you're going to be upfront, you're going to be honest. That's the goal of what you're doing now with SGC. And we said we got to get you out there. We got to put you in front of the folks because you got a baby face, but you're also believable. And we want people to see, who they're dealing with. When a card goes in, kind of like the buck stops here, right? This is Peter. This is the guy. This is the CEO. He's going to come on and tell you what SGC is doing, what they can do, what they can't do, what their hopes are, what they are looking forward to in the future. And so far in our relationship, what he says gets done. And what I'm hearing from our audience, and I'll get into a couple stories I got, and we can do some questions and stuff too, is that they have used SGC already, and they're already getting stuff back. The turnaround times are there. They don't have to worry about things like backlogs and the like, and it's at an affordable price. And then when they try to sell it, they're getting good returns on it as well. So that covers the whole thing. That's all of it, right? You're going to send it in, not get killed on the price, get it back in a reasonable time. And when you get a good grade on your card, because you were good enough to look through the right ones to grade, it's gonna get your money back. You're going to get significant returns on it when you sell the thing. I've set you up, man. Talk about some recent announcements. Talk about what we got going on at SGC. Give us the state of SGC for a couple minutes if you can.
Yeah, sure. So first off, appreciate everything you said. Obviously, I'm sure a lot of people tuning in right now know that SGC came out with a pretty good size update the other day. We don't pretend that we just changed the landscape of grading by any means, but I do feel pretty confident that we made it better. To what degree? Well, that's for everyone to decide, but we didn't make it worse, and we didn't raise price. So that's a win when it comes down to it for me. Just kind of being a collector my whole life, I really approach what comes across my desk with that experience. It's an unbelievably valuable experience, and I happen to be kind of uniquely positioned, I believe, because I am 27 years old, and only a few years back, I was collecting these cards as more of a submitter than anything else, and even after being hired to SGC, I was not hired to be the CEO of this company, that's for sure. So I think that perspective really helps me connect with the audience that I'm serving, because I'm essentially a member of that audience. And at the end of the day, it's really easy when it comes down to it. If your intentions are in the right place and you're willing to listen to feedback, you're going to do well. And one thing I can always say about SGC, and I mean this, we used to give these updates in kind of long form text. And the problem with those updates is you don't get the feeling, you don't get the intention behind those words on the paper. And in video, you could probably tell we really care about our supporters. We really, even more than that, care about the hobby. The people leading this place really grew up in this industry, and it just means the world to us to have any effect on it. And to be in the position we're in, it's really great. It's a cool position to be in, and SGC's rocking and rolling. And more importantly, it seems like people are happy, and that's my metric that I kind of use.
I love it. Victor, appreciate it. He said, really excited for this partnership.
Well,
this is great for the
look at Victor.
Tigers.
Win-win, baby.
Look at Victor. Victor, in his profile picture, is wearing the black and whites. He's all formal. He's
There
like
you
an
go.
SGC guy right there. I love
There
it.
you
And,
go.
I mean, look at what's better than that. Look at Peter. He basically, the whole background is an SGC tux. He's got like the black background. It's like Peter is in the tux right now himself. It's amazing.
Peter, can I ask you something? And this might be an unfair question, but I still want to ask it. Like, when I was a young entrepreneur, I'm still a young entrepreneur, but when I got into this 24, 25 years old, it was really hard to be respected, right? People look at you, they're like, what do you know? You haven't been in this. You haven't, taken some of the punches that we have. How has that been? Both like the positives and the negatives of being a young CEO of established and a respected grading company?
Yeah, that's a really good question, actually. It's funny because if you notice, for anyone who's been tuning in since the start of this interview, I said something along the lines of, if you can believe that I'm running this place. And I think, just to be totally real and transparent with you and the audience, is that, yeah, that probably comes from a touch of insecurity with the fact that I look like I'm 19 years old, and the fact that I don't have a Harvard MBA. I'm just a guy who wants to win. I would argue as bad as anyone in this industry. I know how to treat my people right and make them feel like they're on my team rather than working for me. The line I like to give to the SGC employees is that I am not SGC. So you're not working for me. We together are SGC. There's no machine making this place run. It's essentially a group of experts and a team surrounding those experts. And we're up against another team of experts over there and their group. And if we work harder and smarter, we'll succeed. And I think that, I don't know, my approach is definitely, I'd say, a little fresh because probably of the fact that I come from an untraditional, I guess, background in getting here. And sometimes I almost fool myself. It really is so crazy to think that, like, I've kind of become the SGC guy, because I mean it, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, I certainly wasn't head of this company, and when I say it's an honor, I really mean that. I don't live in a mansion. I'm not riding these yachts. I haven't accomplished a laundry list of things prior to coming to SGC. This is what my life revolves around. And to have people like Victor who just commented and said, this is awesome, that's something that brings me more joy than quite a bit in life. It might be a small view, a small mindset, a small approach to it, but that's me. I love this stuff. I've been a card collector since literally I could remember. I don't have memories before collecting cards. Yeah.
This is funny. When you say win, I always tell Cage, I want to win so bad. And he's like, what does that even mean? So I'm going to ask you that, because as a grading company, grading companies are interesting for a few reasons, but one of them, it's like, this is my interpretation, but you'll tell me if it's true. You want to get your people their cards back in a timely manner, right? You want to have affordable pricing, but you also kind of want to make money as a business. You want the secondary market to keep going up, but not be too high. So it's always like this really weird dance. So like, what does winning look like for SGC?
Sure. So the first thing, and I may speak in ways that are very different from the people that run the other companies, but I is what I is. And the fact is, guys, is there is enough money coming into this place to treat every employee the way that they deserve to be treated, to give them their fair share of the pie. And since that's the case, it's a blessing, by the way, and I owe that to every one of our supporters. I really do. But having said that, I mean it. We are just not the company to look to cut costs and eke out every last. We're comfortable here. This is a privately owned organization by someone who put a 24-year-old kid at the realm because he believed in him. And I guess my point is we measure our wins, our success, not so much in the numbers, because those come along with it. If you're treating people right and they're choosing you to send their cards, which they care so deeply about for whatever reason, I guess what I'm saying is that success comes along with that. So I truly stay focused. And I think a competitive advantage I may have is that rather than looking at a P&L on my desk and saying, well, how do I make this number smaller and this number bigger? I look at Instagram comments and I see, well, that's great that we hit, 9 really happy people. But why is that one guy saying he sent an email to my guy, Brent, and Brent hasn't answered him in 3 days? That doesn't sound like Brent. So I look into it. And while I'm looking into it, I find out that my guy who runs our Instagram already direct messaged that person, asked them what's going on, treated them the right way. So I guess what I'm trying to say, guys, is it takes care of itself. The winning to us is I guess, gaining that market share and doing what we need to do to retain it. Because what that looks like is accurate and consistent grades, totally free of any biases, care around the quality of the slabs and the experience and customer service. So like I said, the wins are what you think they would be. It's just treating collectors right and earning their support.
Cage, help me out here in a second, but I love the vintage. So people are asking about slabs, and I'm curious, right? Have you done market data? Because art is so subjective. Aesthetic is so subjective. One person might love the look of the slab, another person might not. Mm-hmm. And, a Prism's very silver shiny card might look different in one slab than a vintage, like a Pele card. So people are asking.
You stole my card. I sent them a picture last
gorgeous.
night. Yeah, it was a gorgeous card.
Did you get it?
Slab. No. It went pretty nice. It went for a pretty nice. But I own one. This would have been a second one. It went for nice money because it looked really good. It looked really good in the SGC. There was a Pele 1958 Gazzetta card, and it's a very small card. Go ahead.
I think most people will agree that those types of vintage cards look amazing in SGC. The Tux, right? So Global Sports Card Investor, our Aussie friend, shout out to our Aussie friend, French Open final, Rafa versus Medvedev. I'm very excited for it. So will SGC think about a different style of slab? I would love that option. And he said, just to give I think if SGC did offer a few different type of slab options, it would benefit them greatly. So that's his opinion. Some people would agree, some people won't. I'm curious your thoughts on that.
Yeah, so let me just say, this is not lip service, what I'm about to say. It truly isn't. We consider everything. I mean it. When there's that one comment that says something, I even if it's an unrealistic goal, I'm looking to hit 100 out of 100 positive people. And I guess what I'm saying with that is I see the comments. Some people love the tuxedo. Some people wish the tuxedo would stay, but can we do something to that label and make it a little pretty or something there? And some are like, throw the whole thing away. I'm not submitting to you until you redo it all. So it's a difficult thing. What I tend to focus on, I guess, very aggressively is the things that are sure wins. So for example, Andrew, what we put out the other day in that update, it was a sure win because it was a service that didn't exist before. Now it exists for everyone, not just the rich guys submitting at the highest levels. And in addition to that, it costs nothing. In fact, it's actually coupled with a small price decrease on a certain service level. So that's what I love, the wins that are just wins. If you can execute, you've earned more people's support. Now, when it comes to the subjective stuff, obviously, if 90% of people are thinking a certain way and 10 are not, I'd like to go in favor of the 90. I mean, that's just, I guess, I don't know what you want to call it, business.
For sure. And if the 90 are your best customers too, and they own the most cards versus the 10 are the loud minority who probably don't even own any.
Sure. I guess that is harder, but let me just say, I have a board right here that you guys can't see. That board is filled with notes and projects that are in the works. I mean, what I said in that video, it really rings true, which is that we just don't sit still. I mean, if we do sit still, we're just kind of asking for it. I mean, that's any business that's in a competitive and growing field. So we're certainly not complacent, and we're kind of evaluating all things SGC, holders, labels, everything included, really, except the grading.
So I have a few questions from the audience. I always like to pause, give Cage a shot to jump in before we kind of just go down the list.
No, I mean, listen, we could definitely do some questions. I just wanted to say where Luka Nation has kind of found its sweet spot with SGC, and I don't know whether this is what you're trying to hammer home, whether this is sustainable, whether this is something you want to build on. I'll use a comment I got yesterday, Anthony Martirano. So we like to give card plays. Some people judge us for that, some people don't. I like to give card plays, and I'm at a point now where I'm not buying them, right? Because I don't want to trade ahead. I don't want to buy beforehand. I don't want any accusations of that. You name it. Right. I don't have a collectible account. But if you've been tailing my collectible plays on Sunday, you're a rich person. So I wish I had that. It's just not. I mean, we want to try here to remain above reproach.
Someone sitting on a private island, thanks to Kate.
Yeah, exactly. But so one of the plays I gave that is, I believe, and so Anthony Martirano is the person who sent me this message, I believe was tailor-made for SGC. So I gave, you remember the Tops Now play, Andrew, with Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton on the same card? And it was like, came down to that race, and it was the Tops Now, and you could buy it. Anyone could buy them, I think if you bought enough of them, they were $4 a card. If you only bought one, it was like $10, right? So what's funny about that is the card costs $4 to $10, depending on how many you bought, right? In a good enough grade, it's going to sell for a couple $100. But our audience, Anthony, can't send that in to another company because it's going to cost too much to grade a $4 card or even a $10 card, and it's going to take too long to get it back. And he messaged me yesterday that he sent in 6 and already has them back. And when did we get that play, Andrew? When did we get that play? A couple weeks ago. You know what I mean? When that thing happened, right? And he sent them SGC, got him in, got him back from Tops.
December 20th.
Right?
It was. So, I was in Colorado then.
So he got them mailed to him, sent them in, got him graded, and got 4 10s out of the. Now that's not on SGC. I mean, maybe Tops messed one of them up, mailing it to him. Who knows? But got 4 10s, and he's like, I'm going to put one up on eBay. I'm going to be the first one to put it out there. That first mover advantage is a huge thing, right? And having the ability to grade those things, turn them around in an efficient and cost-effective method, our guys are already using that. I think that type of card, I talk about this, right? So I talk about how the bottom of, I'm going to use pyramid, but think of it more food pyramid than Ponzi pyramid, guys, okay? Please, right? There have to be grains on the bottom, right? There's got to be a big part of the bottom of the pyramid works way up. The healthy stuff, right? So on the bottom of the pyramid are the new people coming into the hobby. When we talk to Josh Luber, he's talking about all the new people who are going to come in the hobby. When you come in the hobby new, it's very rare that a new person coming in the hobby is Steve Aoki, and starting on the top rung. Right. It's people who are going to figure it out, people who are going to test things out, dibs, and I know I was in that bottom rung for a while, and what I like to do was find bargain cards that weren't going to cost too much of my bankroll, grade them, and sell them for more and work my way up and maybe find myself in the next level of that pyramid, right? A lot of our listeners are on that bottom part of that pyramid trying to work their way up, trying to do that. And that type of play with your company, it's like peanut butter and jelly, man. And I don't think there's any place else to do that stuff. And there are a ton of plays out there like that. So, guys, if you're listening and we give a play and we give, I gave a couple this week, right? I mean, what do we give here? You were like, the deck of cards, Christmas Story. It's licensed. It's licensed. Peter can handle it if it's licensed.
I was that guy.
Yeah,
so I was that guy in 2020 before COVID and all that mess. I didn't have a lot of money. You guys know. I've been on other guest podcasts. I've told my story. I had nothing. I had $500, and I bought 10 Zion Prism base cards. I sent them in to get graded. I got them back, and now my 500 turned into 5,000. I didn't go and take that and take a vacation. I dumped every single penny back into the hobby, and I took other people's cards off them. I think I bought a Bellinger. I think I bought Acuna. I can't remember exactly, but I bought other cards off other people, and now those people had money. And cards, you hear of these grading companies, Kitch. I don't know if there was a question, but the money's tied up. 8, 9, 10 months, even longer. That money's not being reinvested into the hobby. So we wonder, why are the prices, falling or stagnant? I think you don't have to look any farther than that kind of chain of events.
No, I mean, I wonder if Peter, agrees that's kind of like the identity. But what's fun is with a new announcement here, I can say to our guys, you can play at that level. But if you happen to have a card that's slightly better than that, maybe it's a silver prism of not the top guy, right? But maybe it's a silver prism. Maybe it's
Desmond
a card.
Bain.
Whoever, yeah, Desmond Bain's a good one, right? I saw one for like $70, right, on whatnot, the light blue, right?
Yep.
And you wanted to turn that around because who knows what Desmond Bain's going to be doing in a month, but you want to capitalize on that. Well, look what they just did. I mean, you can get a 10-day service at like $40 a card with the new stuff here, right? I mean, that's amazing. So you have that level, with the new announcements, the new service levels, you can play those cards at different levels that you just can't get, and you're definitely not getting that turnaround time anywhere else. So I guess it's me saying thanks because we're getting comments back already from our folks. Go ahead, you're Reckless.
This is your Reckless. I have a mosquito next to my head. So Reckless family. This isn't one person. This is a family. I love the Reckless Cards family and what they do. 2 years ago, SGC was never an option. Today, we routinely submit our cards to SGC. Been very impressed with Peter's words, but more importantly, his actions.
Here we go. Reckless.
Yeah, I'd be absolutely lying if I said that didn't make me feel really, really good. I don't know what to say. Like that is my currency. I mean that. When you love something so much and you can have an effect, it's really cool. And when you read a comment like that and it's positive. I mean, unless this person's just a liar, it's a great feeling. So thank you so much for your support. And I can just promise you that I mean it when I say we're just getting started. If we have anything to say about this landscape right here, we're just going to keep making it better. And like I said in the video the other day, even if that means just keeping pressure on these big corporations that own this space for so long, at least the modern space, we're going to be happy to do so. We'll be cracking the whip on those guys to treat you guys right, or you're gonna jump ship, and that's how it should be.
And it's our job to communicate that message, and our community's job to, what I always say, like, vote with your dollars, right? Like, you could talk all the crap you want about other businesses in the hobby or outside, but if you keep kind of going there and spending your dollars there, you're incentivizing the wrong behavior. So Dennis Patrick Zender.
Wait, I'm gonna put my thing on mute because I saw the question, and this is one Peter's gonna go. So I'm put on mute. I don't want to interrupt him. He's gonna geek out on this.
You want to go on mute to avoid interrupting the question.
I'm going on mute. I interrupted you so that I didn't have to interrupt him.
Gotcha. Good
Be thankful. Be thankful.
Just tell me when to speak.
Popcorn. So Dennis Patrick Zender asks, and we talked a little bit about this offline. I was curious about this too. What kind of security features are involved when we submit to SGC? How do we combat the possibility of someone faking your slabs?
Right. So as far as security goes, one kind of common misconception in this industry is that, make a hologram. That makes it harder to counterfeit. And that is true. That is a fact, that the more little bits and pieces and watermarks and things like that, the better. Absolutely, there's a direct correlation in the right direction there. However, these guys are faking these PMG cards. I've held these fakes. It is unbelievable what they're capable of when there's enough money involved, which, as we all know, there is. They will replicate it. It's a fact. It may take them a little longer. They may fall a bit behind on their fraudulent little journey there, but they will get to that point where you just cannot tell the difference, and one is indistinguishable from the other. For that reason, we decided to take kind of almost a backwards approach to it, where rather than taking this holder and just adding all these little things and focusing on that, instead what we did is we have a very beefed up imaging department in our building, where basically every single card, it doesn't matter if the card is worth $1 or if it's worth $1 million, we take high-res images of both the front and back of that card's data, which includes not only the information found on the label, but also, very importantly, the date that it was graded is available with that card. So what that allows you to do is, if you're at a card show and you're spending any amount of money on a slab, and let's say it's a 2019 Prism card, a 2021 Prism card, I guess I should say, it'll be in our database. And the reason I said 2021 instead of 2019 is, guys, we're like any other business with good intentions, I guess, and that we're evolving. So in other words, you could go look at the cards that we graded 15 years ago. No, we don't have high resolution images. In fact, this video wouldn't be possible because YouTube didn't exist. We get better, and that's what the company has to do. And with that, I'm happy to say that it is not going to be easy for these guys to replicate literally the cards attributes that you're seeing in high resolution that was in our building. Not to mention the SGC slab happens to be a very unique one, because there's actually any encapsulator in our building will kind of tell you there's a few different components there. The insert is a very specific material. We of course have notes of kind of what the different iterations of the holder has been over our 20-year history. So it's very easy for us to catch counterfeits all along. And what's great about these new images is hopefully we've made it easy for our supporters as well. I hope that makes sense. I hope I explained kind of what the feature does. Basically, if you're holding the card, Andrew, so let's say you're selling me your Topps Chrome LeBron that was graded by SGC, a year ago, okay? And that card's in a 10. There's something about the holder, or you've never held an SGC card maybe, whatever the issue is, you just don't feel 100% confident in it, or you want to be sure before you spend that kind of money. You go to our website, you type in the certification code, which is found on the LeBron's label. You then basically get the image of that card. There it is. You'll basically get the image of that card. And if that card looks any different than the card that you're holding, you could bet that something fishy went on there, because when we had that card, it was this card. And if your card is not that card, then we want an email saying so immediately.
Gotcha. Okay. And
you know what this is helpful for, Andrew? Also, check out CardPoint's most recent post today, where they got that same LeBron Exquisite BGS 9 pulled down again. They were trying to resell it because somebody swapped out a white patch for a really cool Cleveland, multicolor patch. And the only way to stop that before was, the blowout detective agency, where people knew what the old card, that one exactly, right? People knew, hey, look, here's a picture of 46 out of 99, or whatever the heck the number on the card was. Look at what it looked like before. It had a white slab. It had a white patch to it. And now it's got this amazing multicolor thing.
Doesn't that suck, by the way? I was actually, I had a quick coffee with a coworker right before this call, and we were talking about that exact LeBron. We saw the post, and it just sucks, man. There's 99 of these things. Like, it's okay. It's quite impressive with just a white jersey. You know what I mean? I don't know. I hate when that kind of thing.
I mean, it's $1 million card with the white jersey. Now it's probably not, because somebody got too cute with it.
Right.
You almost want to take it and put the white back in.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And how far back have you scanned?
So I have to be totally honest with you. I could get the exact date. I don't even know the exact date. I guess it'll be it'll be obvious to people when they look at their search.
It's a going forward
year and a half. And the reason I say I don't know the exact date, guys, is because we actually started imaging way long ago. I would say like very early 2019. But I have to be honest, just again, with the evolution, the growth, the technological upgrades, when we first started, it was literally as I guess archaic as like a scanner, like woo, woo, and we've graduated to high resolution, cameras that are now a portion of our office. But yeah,
I love it though. Like, when I buy off all these different marketplaces now, I love having the high resolution images, because you could really actually see the card in and of itself. You could zoom in on the corners and all that. So that's a game changer for me as a buyer. I love looking at that, because not all 10s, not all 9s and 8s are created equal.
Yeah, look, there's a reason that when someone's selling a house, they have someone come in and take professional photos and make a room that's this big look this big in the photo, and anything that we can do to just give our supporters I don't know what you'd say. I don't want to make it like a leg up as if they're fooling anyone, but we want our cards displayed as they should be, which is looking great, and not with on a crowded desk with bad lighting and that kind of thing. So
I got another positive.
50 on the live, and you
so
said
think about
Friday
this.
at 3 people are working.
Yeah,
we
think
got
about
some
this.
people on here.
Well, card collectors, this is their work. So think about what you can do with it now. Pete, unless I'm wrong, when you get that whole your order is done, and you get that email, which we all love. Your website does a great job from a collector of talking about that moment that grades come back, right? I'm pretty sure when your order is done, you can link to these these pictures now, the front, the back, you name it, right? So you can even see these kind of before the cards are in your hand, or once they've left your facility, right? I think.
Right.
Am
So
I right?
you basically have a sneak peek of the cards. It really is a cool feature. And to be honest with you guys, before we go ahead and kind of stick our necks out and we make an announcement like that, we have to be so sure that we are giving you what we're telling you we're giving you. So what actually happened is on the administrative side of our website, in other words, the website that we use to process your cards, our database, we actually implemented the feature for testing purposes, and so our employees could kind of feel it out. And it was a very frustrating time to see it and be like, this is so cool, but not be able to send it live. And that's exactly what it does, Cage. It's basically
so think about this,
cards,
Peter. Take a bow for a second. You ready? Take a bow. Take a little pat yourself on the back. You're allowed. Take it because, guys, even though I'm out here talking about how SGC is doing it better because they're getting stuff back to you quicker, so that you can then flip it and you can then sell it. You can do what you want with the card. Now, I hope you keep every one of your cards. A lot of people are grading these things to sell them. Well, guess what you can do now? That 22 business day turnaround, you didn't have to wait the card in your hand. Because now you can get an email. You got a better picture than I'm going to take at home with my iPhone 4. A high-res scan of the front and the back for you to put in your Facebook group, for you to put on eBay if you want, for you to sell that thing, for you to put it up there and gloat about it on Instagram before it's even in your hand. Think about the benefit of getting there. Shoot.
Hey, I wanna say something real quick. And
Shoot.
I never know what's right to say, what's wrong to say. I just trying to be honest.
Say it all.
Let me say this. So SGC's my office, just so everyone knows, is smack dab in the middle of everything. I'm not like off site or anything like that. And I have a very I know what's going on. I mean, the fact is like I knew every employee's name when we were 40, which impressed a lot of people. I know every employee's name now, and we're about 160. And I take a lot of pride in that I am engaged in what this company is doing. And my receiving team, the team that checks in the orders and makes sure, everything's good and they can be seamlessly processed, they're about 15 feet away. And this new 5 and 10 day that we implemented, that was a new process for us. We had to work out the logistics. And let's just put it this way. And this just shows you guys that it's not as hard as, I don't know, a lot of other companies may make it in this industry. Guys, so we have a 10 day and a 5 day, okay? And my guys are kind of asking how it's going to work. And essentially what I told them without, I guess, revealing too much is, guys, make the 10 day, like move it up to like 7 or 8, just while we get our feet wet. Move the 5, like that's good business. I mean, does that not make sense? Is that not what you would do, Cage?
Yeah.
Or
if you had the time, if you had the ability to
my
do
grading
it.
company 10 day would be 7.
This is our first round of 10-day supporters. Like, let's try to outperform. Let's try to make some people happy. And what I found is that, I'm very thankful to our supporters because they realize, and that means a lot, that when we do something and they kind of feel like we nail it, they let us know that. It really does go a long way with the team. And to be totally honest with you, our receiving department, some people like to write these notes with their orders, and it could be because they think they're going to get all 10s. Who knows why? But the notes don't leave the receiving department. But you should see, we have a literal collage of people it's really cool, actually. Sometimes, when we're a little stressed, we take a look at the board and it makes us feel better. It's just people thanking us for being in it for them and working hard. And it really does mean a lot.
The SGC coffee table book is what I see in the future, made up only of notes from the people submitting their cards.
Yeah, that would be good. Some of those notes are actually we can't hang on the wall because people in this industry, as you two know, are very passionate about this industry, and they tend to say very nice things about us, but sometimes they use language referring to others that we don't necessarily condone.
I got a question from the audience. And I have a hunch that you might not even have a comment on this because you and I, we've interacted, Cage and I as well.
No comment.
No comment. We've interacted a little bit, and you're always struck me as someone who's like head down. You focus on how do we make SGC better, not what everyone else is doing. But at the same time, maybe you have an answer to this. So this week, eBay came out with like this kind of authentication process. So Drake's PC has a question on that. He said, were you approached by eBay to do grading as a part of their authentication process? I think the bigger question there is looking at the industry as a whole. You've been in it for a while, both as a collector, and as an operator of a huge company,
Mhm.
what are your thoughts on that? What are the benefits? What are some potential loopholes or issues that might come up with that? Any
Yeah.
thoughts on that?
A common misconception in the industry, and I know this because I'm very engaged. I know the biggest podcasts. I listen to them. I watch YouTube, and I see our comments and blowout, whatever it is. A big misconception that it seems that people feel is that these companies are just, it's like this dog eat dog, like, sabotage them so we get the cards. Thank goodness, guys, the pie has grown so much over the last 18 months that there really is enough to go around. And you're right when you say, Andrew, that we try to keep our head down here rather than worry about anyone else. I could just say this. Rather than speaking to if eBay approached who, let me just say this. If eBay can work out a way with a company that truly has experts that are capable of identifying authentic copies from fake copies, because as I understand it, that's all they're doing, I believe. I don't believe they're grading the cards on their condition. They're just saying real, fake, pass, fail. If they can effectively decide the passes from the fails, and effectively then, I guess you'd say, play middleman between the buyer and seller, then I would argue that just made the hobby better. And I would argue if I'm upset about that, I'm not in it for the right reasons, because it's basically, unless I'm winning, no one can win. And that just doesn't make sense to me. So what I would say is, truly, being someone who's bought and sold cards on eBay their entire life, like I'm sure everyone in this industry, I hope it does go well. What do you think? SGC is going to close up shop if this little...
To the contrary, Peter.
So
I read the fine print of it. I think it's actually great for you guys.
Of course you did.
And the fine print says that initially, eBay is going to be covering all costs of authentication. So it doesn't cost the eBay seller anything to have their item authenticated.
I think the challenge, which a company like, I guess, CSG, it may not be as used to, being that they've been authenticating other items for a while. Mm-hmm. Cards are different. People often also think that if you can authenticate this, well, it's just authenticate. It's not the same. Expertise is a real thing. But anyway, what I'm trying to tell you is that the challenge there is, if you think about it, you're going to need a lot of people opening those packages, a lot of people shipping those packages. And from the outside looking in, just the perspective of being an operator of a grading machine, I would think that that's very cumbersome and very, I could see it as a distraction from just taking in customers' orders, grading them, slabbing them, and sending them out. But I don't know. And by no means is that a judgment at all. I'm just legitimately kind of opining like you guys are.
So I think here's the thing. I don't know how long they're going to be turned around on these things, but you obviously have to send them off to be authenticated. And I think eventually what's going to happen is so much of this stuff is going to go out there that, first of all, everyone's going to be selling cards for $749 because it doesn't have to be done unless it's $750. So that's first.
That's
okay.
Yeah,
First and foremost, $749. That's going to be the new red flag on eBay, $749.99. So keep your eyes open. Number two, I have a feeling. Let's just use $1,499 as a nice round number because it's double the minimum, $1,499. Right? Let's just say it's taken them a couple of weeks to just authenticate the damn thing and then put it in and it's done and it's sold and you name it. I think eBay, given their fee structure and PayPal and the whole deal, will probably charge, let's call it 3% once it's all done and once this is part of it. You know what 3% of $1,499 is, Andrew? It's about $45, which doesn't sound like that much when it's $14.99 for the card, right? It's $45, right? So it's going to take a couple weeks for you to get it off. Right? Yeah, you get your couple weeks. It's going to take to have them authenticate it, and you're going to make your $14.99 sale. Well, not. It's the value of the card, $14.99, and it's cost $45. I think I remember that the first level of grading for SGC still covers those $14.99. It's up to $1,500, and at 22 business days, it's only $30. Not just to authenticate it, but to slab it and put it in an SGC tux and then sell it on eBay. So to me, I think, at least where you guys are positioned in the market right now, I think what's going to happen is people are just going to send their cards to you before they sell it on eBay. Because for just as fast, if not faster, and probably cheaper when people start paying for this, they're going to be able to sell that $1,499 card for more because it's $30 added on and trading of the SGC fee, and then it's authenticated, it's graded, it's got everything. So I actually think that where you guys are situated at that bottom level, at that level of 750, 1,000, you name it, and I just think that it just makes sense. If I'm somebody who's looking to sell a card on eBay for $1,500, $2,000, I'm going to send it to you because I'm going to have to get it authenticated anyway.
Look, I don't, like I said, I can't speak to that any better than you guys can. The one thing that I do want it to be known, I legitimately, if this is going to happen, I'm rooting for it. And I'll tell you why. Because the worst thing that could happen to this hobby, all of us, is that the pie shrinks, is that the collectors, it's a mass exodus of these people that are just tired of cardboard. And that stinks for me. It stinks for you guys. It stinks for all of us. So I guess what I'm saying is the thing that I am really pulling for is that it's just not like, and I'm not saying this is the case. I have no indication that this will be the case, but that it's like a disaster. That would be terrible, that a platform as big and impactful as eBay undertakes something that ends up hurting the hobby rather than helping it. Because I can tell you, it would have a negative impact on SGC because a lot of people would have, a bad taste in their mouth about cards and move on to whatever else they like to collect.
Andrew, I hope there's other questions or anything like that, but let me just say something. This is why we love Peter. That's why we loved SGC. When we talk to potential partners, I'll use Collectible as an example. When we spoke to them and said we want to do a show, what they said was very similar to what you just said, Peter. They said, we want the pie to grow. Right? We want people to know about the fractional space. We want credibility in fractional. We don't want anybody out there doing anything that would hurt the fractional space. We want all of it to grow. We want all of it to be successful. We don't want anybody cutting corners, you name it. And we want to make sure that we're putting all that information out there because if the pie grows, we do fine. That's exactly what you're saying. And cut that to its core. Everybody that we work with, you especially, you want the hobby to grow, right? Because you realize that if eBay's doing well and everybody else out there is doing well and the hobby's growing and that bottom rung is growing, it's good for all of us. I mean, I appreciate that. I know.
You know what I've actually noticed, Cage?
Shoot.
Is that mostly the big Goliaths in the hobby are the only ones that don't want the pie to grow. They want to take more of the pie for themselves. Like eBay, for example, is someone that comes to mind because after their whole PWCC debacle, whichever side you're on, the only people that were really hurt were the everyday man and woman that buy cards. And now there's not a good inventory on eBay. I want to ask you, so Jordan has a comment. He said, I promise y'all, as a person in the field that shows every weekend, SGC has made huge strides and is number 2 ahead of BGS with the everyday man and woman. Just my opinion from what I've seen. MBT has a question about re-slabs. Let me see if I can find it. There's a ton of comments here. Real quick, what's the turnaround on a re-slab? Have an old SGC slabbed card, which, by the way, I love the old SGC labels, and would like a newer version. What's the re-slab time and process like?
It's actually the same exact as card grading. The cards must go through the process to authenticate the slab, to make sure, once in a while, guys, we have been in business for over 22 years. So it's not, I shouldn't say it's not uncommon. It's actually very uncommon, but it does happen still with the massive quantities of cards that we see, where a card that was graded, let's say, in the year 2001, we'll look at and we'll say, whoa, this would not ever go out in a 9 right now. Therefore, we can't have this in the marketplace. And of course, we make every submitter of any reholder in which that's the case whole. But it's very uncommon. But I guess the reason I'm even bringing it up is to let everyone know that although it is just a reholder, by no means does it skip every step and jump to the encapsulation process just to get that new label put in. It's actually evaluated by multiple experts, our grading team, our QA team, which is made up of experts as well, just to make sure that the 9 looks like a 9, everything's kosher, we have the data in our system. And then at that point, it's just a 1-to-1 where the old SGC 96s convert to a 9, the 98's a Gem Mint 10, and if anyone has a 100, it would be a pristine gold 10 today. So the answer to that is roughly 20 business days. We're pretty quick.
Yeah.
we hire and train well, and we're aggressive in both of those areas. Which
The only thing where it's not the same price is the high value. Once you get above 7,500, when it's original grade, there's still other levels above that on the 1 to 2 day turnaround where it has to be, where it's more money. On this, I think your reholders are capped at 100 and a quarter. I think.
Yeah. I to be what's going on, Bobbles, the other man.
Incredible name, right? Bobbles and ball cards.
Yeah, and just to give a brief.
Who are you? I want to be friends.
Yeah. So just to give a brief backstory too, man. This company took off in a cool way, man. Where we really built this from we had a brand that was known as the vintage guys, the vintage experts, and that was the case. But we were also the modern experts. What we found is that stigma was completely unfounded, and that gentleman who you just saw, Bobbles, was a guy who, to put it simply, caught on before a lot of people did, and those people will always hold kind of. I guess you'd say a special place in our hearts, man. We really have the backs of our supporters because, it's easy to jump on the bandwagon, but it's not always easy to get that train moving. And that's a dude. We owe a lot to Bobbles and a lot of others, by the way. I literally don't have enough time I could speak for days about everyone we owed their due to, but we have the backs of the hobby and our people, man. This doesn't suck to be grading sports cards all day.
It's a blessing.
I agree with you, Dave.
Dave's card says very subtle, but his favorite part is those little cutouts in foam, right where the cards are.
The corner cutouts.
The corner cutouts. Double question from Jordan Hudson. So kind of like a roadmap question. Will SGC come out with an app that would throw you all far ahead of other grading companies that don't have one? And he also asked a second question about what are your thoughts of open a secondary location? So I don't know if that's on your roadmap. I don't even know if there's benefits, but app, second location.
So I have to be honest regarding the second location. The last thing I ever want to come off, guys, is cocky or we're the best, because it's just so not the case. Different companies are better at different things. I have to tell you guys, we're really good at operating. We're really good at taking people who know a little about cards or maybe nothing about cards, and really not just training them. Anyone could memorize something, but so much more importantly, instilling a passion in them to almost love this themselves. And the best employees are the ones who want to do a good job, especially in an industry like ours where the final product is just so unbelievably impactful. As far as the second location, between us guys, I could open an office in New York, California, Canada. I don't want to see them over pretty easily. I got to be honest. We've done some kind of mock experiments almost. It's luckily that Pete is not the only guy here who really, really cares about this company. It's really top down. And having said that, any one of my kind of higher level leaders knows exactly how to get that process rolling. We just really need a few desks, the equipment, obviously, and that doesn't mean we're hiring people. Don't get me wrong. That doesn't mean we're moving to New York, putting a thing graders wanted. By no means would that be the case. But I'm talking about more of the processing of the cards than having.
Oh, good. I'm glad you said it, Pete. That was my question. I was like, you talk about bringing people off the street. That's not your graders. Not. So talk about just for a second, just so that, because there's gonna be people like, oh, SGC brings people off the street. They get there in one day as long as they can memorize. That's who's grading your cards. No. Tell me about a couple of your graders, the experience they have, because you have some legit grading legends at SGC.
We have the best expert in the world. And that, I don't care if you think I'm cocky, guys. I know a lot about who's in this hobby. We have the best expert in the world. He happens to be kind of my boss. He happens to be the owner of the company, and he happens to be someone that I would consider almost my apprentice when it comes to card knowledge, grading knowledge, really the things that matter when it comes to all things authentication and grading. He is, if there was a Mount Rushmore, of this hobby, he would be front and center. And, maybe I should backtrack and say he's tied, because I shouldn't say he's the best. I should just say no one can beat him. No one can beat him. There may be others. He's tied for the best. But the reason I say that, guys, is because this is someone who was a part of this hobby from the beginning. You know, this is someone who knows how we got here. He's seen the evolution himself. And by the way, it's with his set of eyes that our leading graders are trained. You know, a lot of people believe that grading is just a thing. You could just make a grading company. It's like, well, where is your scale coming from? And I can tell you where ours is coming from. It's coming from literally the birth of the process itself. This individual was almost the George Washington of card grading, and he's passed on that unbelievably nuance and kind of that tribal knowledge and experience to the new guys on the block who weren't there back then, but they love Panini Prism and they need to learn a lot more about T206s. You know, so my point is it's so important that baton is given very effectively in training, and that's a hard thing for most people. But at SGC we're very good at that because it takes a good teacher and it takes someone to know it itself. It's very beneficial, honestly, to our company guys that the person running it is basically has grading qualifications. It really helps. It allows you to speak to your encapsulators with a certain context, or it allows you to speak to your research and ID team members with a certain context of what we're trying to accomplish here. What are the pitfalls we need to look out for? And it really is just a top-down management style where we all know kind of how it should be, if that makes sense.
Experience matters. And just to echo that, like, there are benefits of being kind of like fresh-eyed, but those benefits are kind of, you could only use those benefits when you have the experience. I felt that, like, I love the apprentice thing. I learned a lot from Cage because he's been in this world for 4 decades. No, it's true. Like, you understand.
Dude, I learned so much from you.
Experience?
I know the right brand of kombucha. I know to take the seeds out before you light it up. I mean, I've learned so many valuable lessons from you. It's absurd. I mean, it's just great stuff.
If you buy the seeds, this podcast isn't doing a good job. If that's what you're buying. What are the benefits? What are the benefits of opening new locations? Like someone asks, will they ever open in Australia?
I have to be totally honest. A big benefit of a new location for a company that's having a hard time scaling is that you can tap into a new, I don't know what group of people, a new pool of potential employees. In addition to that, there are some, I guess, benefits of convenience. For example, if you're located in New York, packages sent from New Jersey or right next door. I mean, there's a few different things. Lucky for SGC, I always say our model, if we wanted to be the New York Yankees, we could be. We could fly these graders in that have graded at other companies, and although it would take an adjustment to our scale, they'd be able to grade, and we could, pay them a ton of money to move their lives over. That's just not our style. We are the Tampa Bay Devil Rays in that or Tampa Bay Rays, excuse me.
I love it. I still call them the Devil Rays.
Yes.
And the reason I say that, a Yankees fan who loves the Rays.
The reason I say that is because we are in the World Series every year, meaning our quality is I would argue, where it should be. But at the same time, we grow the talent from within, and that talent is grown in the coolest way, which is just spreading the love of the cards, man. Because like I said, the best graders in the world are the guys and girls that want to get the grade right, not sometimes, not only on the big cards, but every single card. And the best people to be working at your research and ID department that never make mistakes are the ones who never want to make mistakes, the ones who want to earn SGC more business. And I can tell you that in my few departments that I manage, every single department, they want it so bad. And the people that are leading those departments were hired at the entry level that were recognized as one. It's a cool company. It's the way every company should be running.
So you are, in that metaphor, Randy or Rosarina. And when we come visit you will be racing a horse. Is that correct?
Sure.
Okay.
He's Evan Longoria, although he didn't finish with the race.
I miss Chris Archer, man. I had such high hopes for Chris Archer. I don't know what happened.
What's up, man? I'm getting shout outs here. I know that guy.
Shout out to Peter. Did you see who it was there?
The show.
Personal finance dad.
Great YouTube channel, by the way. We got to do a show with him. He does a good job. I want to ask you something. I'm trying to pull this up. So wow, back. Give me a second.
I literally could do this all day. By the way. I love just shooting it with you guys. This will be a fun partnership, man. You got to have me on the show a lot.
Come on, whatever you want, man.
A big thank you from our audience. The 50 free subs were gobbled up like that. People are so happy. People just appreciate when companies give back. So thank you. Mike Corbley. Just wondering about group subs after the Marks Cards PSA situation. Seems like there are discounts to go through group subbers. Why not have the same price for all and encourage self-sending?
Sure, I can answer that very easily. So the reason that group subbers are given that price is, to be totally honest with you guys, it's easier to process their cards. They make it easier for us to process. And when you make something easier for us, well, I want to lower your price as low as I can possibly make it. Why am I trying to maximize my profits if the body of work that I have to put in to perform the service is less than the body of work over here? Well, doesn't it make sense that this should be less of a cost to you than this? It essentially gives another option to those collectors who may be working in, let's say, lower end cards, or just people like anyone who wants to save a few bucks. It's kind of our basement. It's the landing spot. It's the home for those where price is the most important thing for them.
And guys, what Peter's saying, without saying it, just so you can hear it, right? And I'll do it because we've done this, right? We've collected group subs. It's a logistical savings for these guys, right? These companies, scale-wise, employee-wise, yes, every one of those cards still has to be graded. And when it gets to that grading phase, whether it comes in from a group subber or from an individual submitter, it's getting the same evaluation, it's getting the same quality assurance. There's no difference there just because one paid $1 more or $2 more. But where it matters is this. Let's just say I'm the group subber for the hypothetical here, right? I'm getting in cards from 50 or 100 people every month, right? And I am writing in what these cards are. I'm filling in the submission. I'm opening the packages. I have the PO box. I'm now collecting these. It's taking a lot of time to open each individual box, go through, log in each one of these things. Now I take 50 or 100 orders and put it into one box, one order that then gets to SGC. The person has to open up one box, not 50 and collect them in the whole one box. And then when it's done, SGC doesn't have to pack up 50 or 100 different smaller box orders and send them out to a million different places, creating labels and all that other fun stuff. They get one and send it out. Go ahead, Pete. Sorry.
No, of course. Let me just say this as well, Cage. You know, we have seen, we do a lot of number crunching, not profits, but more capacity. That's the biggest thing that matters. Our demand against our capacity. It's simple economics. And what we found is that when we have more bulk, which comes from our group submitters, we actually are able to send out more cards for the exact reason that you just said, Cage, because rather than shipping 50 orders to get out 500 cards, we're shipping 2 orders to get out 500 cards. That leads to greater cards out the door, which leads to greater turnaround times. Greater turnaround times can lead to lower prices, promotions, happier people, a better hobby. If done correctly, guys, and that is a very important little preface there, it's a great thing. You know, I truly believe that, and I think a benefit that SGC has personally, it's a liability to have your cards sitting anywhere for over 12 months. You know, and what's nice about SGC is we actually have very, very few cards in the building at any given time, because as soon as they come in, we get them out, you know. So as far as that goes, it really mitigates our risk of anything, any kind of catastrophe, which I'm happy to say.
So poke holes in this theory, and I have one more question after this. I think group submitters add so much value to the hobby, but I think that they should be licensed. Is there any truth, any validity to that? Is that possible even?
Yeah, I mean, licensed is really the term there, because if licensed represents that they have to be trusted, experienced people, yes, with I guess a community to vouch for their integrity. Of course, I totally agree with you. And SGC just is not in the business of partnering with people who would
Correct.
ever do wrong by our supporters. That would just be completely why would we ever want to put ourselves in that position? But I can speak, and I don't want to use names because we have so many amazing group submitters that each offer kind of their community its own little unique thing. But I'll tell you this much. Some of our groups, again, I won't use names, some of our group submitters have a YouTube, kind of a live YouTube where they reveal. And everyone in that order is gathered around talking about the cards and the grades. Like, I'm sorry, guys, I love cards. I'm just a card geek. That is awesome. Like, that's what we need more of. People to just like celebrate each other's successes or say, hey man, that sucks. You missed the back court or the centering, whatever it is. And I think that part of it's awesome. Another thing is we have group submitters that help our, I guess the people, the owners of the cards who may be a little more new to this, understand grading. And I actually have group submitters that'll receive cards and say, I wouldn't send this in if you're doing it for the money, for the return on investment. And that's valuable to me. And like I said, it's very important to police the process so that it's handled right and no submitters are being mistreated. But with successful policing, it's amazing. We have such great relationships with our group submitters, and we owe them so much in kind of elevating the SGC brand to where it is today. It really, we love them, and I hope that they feel that love because it means a lot to me. I can't always pick up the phone and call everyone and thank them 24/7, or I wouldn't have time to work on these new updates and things. But for anyone watching who works with us at all, just know that we understand there are other options there, and it means a lot to us to be able to work with you guys.
And people in the comments are chiming in how, one, that we should have you on more, but two, they love your optimism, positivity. Where I go, I think the situation with Marks is going to level up other group submitters, right? Sometimes we look at the bad, but we don't actually see the positive until 3, 6, 9 months out down the road. I think the group submitters, the best ones, will level up their game, seeing what happened to be even better. I haven't seen this. Last question from me. We're at an hour. This is fun, man. I've seen some inconsistency on how odd-sized cards are fit into custom gaskets. Can customers request their cards be centered? Let me caveat this because I have looked up cards and I haven't found where they're unevenly.
No, but he or she, I didn't catch a name there, but they're correct.
Impact player.
I would be more than happy to address that head on. There's no looking I need to do to confirm that that's the case. Yep. So first off, the thing to remember, guys, is that SGC, what our encapsulation department can really be referred to as a custom framing department. And the reason is because it's totally unacceptable to SGC to have a card of any value, let alone high value, floating around in the holder. Just, the whole point of grading is that we're judging these pieces of cardboard or chromium on their condition. And the last thing we want is the card, knocking around and damaging, essentially. So what SGC does is we fit our frame, what we refer to as our black insert, to the cards. What makes it tricky from our perspective, which I'm sure a lot of people don't often think about, is that you're looking at the card in front of you. But guys, think about the person next to you, their card. They're a vintage soccer collector where they come in discs and squares, and then a vintage baseball collectors like the Candy Lid set, and the Hires root beer set. There's a lot of shapes and sizes of these things. And what we can do is try to stay on top of everything to make the best fit for each set, which I can promise you, we do it all the time. Our encapsulation department is constantly innovating on new shapes and sizes for our frames. However, it is just inherent to the kind of the nature of the work that we're doing that we see something where we're like, well, darn, we don't have a great fit for this. In which case, one of our more advanced encapsulators at times will actually use some equipment custom make that insert. Upon the custom making process, it is extremely difficult to have that be almost, you're making it essentially with equipment but your hands. It's extremely difficult to replicate one to be an exact copy of the other. And what we also try to do is, upon one of our encapsulators receiving a card like that, a tricky one at their desk, we encourage them, guys, go to Google, go to eBay. We've been in business 20 years. See how we did it last time. Then ask yourself, is that the right way? Did we do it the perfect way back then? Because we all weren't here back then, but so we don't always agree with how things were done. But if we do like it, we'll do it that way. In other words, we try to be consistent. Most importantly, we want to protect the cards. And it is a constant kind of cat and mouse game because these cards are so different. I mean, you even look at Panini and Topps these days, the inserts are in a great way. They're, die cuts and different things like that. So it's a constant game, like I said, of just evolving and trying to keep up. But with the insert, there's great benefits, in which case we don't just put a circle in a square and it's floating around and whatever. But at the same time, you do have, those things where you're like I said, your old Pele could come back here in the holder and the next round it's here. It's like a touch higher. And there are a lot of OCD collectors out there, by the way, including myself. And I totally understand it. Just know that we are very well intended. When your card is on our desk, we truly do what we can to make it a one-to-one. And we are looking across the board to kind of getting that process down perfectly. Because if we
these are NFTs, guys. We don't want them one-to-one. We want everyone uniquely positioned.
No, but he's right about collectors. Collectors being OCD is 100% right.
Oh, yeah. I'm telling you, I am one of those people. I really promise you. There are certain grades. I don't mean the card in the grade. I mean the grade on the label that I love seeing, and then there are grades I don't like because the grade is ugly to me. I'm just weird. I don't know.
9s, 8s, and 7s, I just throw them right in the trash. 10 I keep. So
you're a modern. You're a modern only guy. And by the way, we need to. If I end up making an appearance here again, guys, I've said it for a long time.
Not if.
What's that?
When, not if. You're coming back.
I don't need anything. I don't need a Gaudi and an 8 or a 9. A Gaudi and a 6 is fine for me.
I could tell you guys the one job, and I've said this before, and if you watch my speaking engagements, I guess you'd say, you all see it, Cage. If you watch what I say, it tends to I tend to repeat myself because I mean what I say. I'm not just BSing every new interview I get. But the only job I'd rather be doing than the one I have here is convincing more people to collect cards. That is my favorite thing in the world. And what we need to do, Andrew, is get you collecting vintage and get a lot of other people collecting vintage. Not because I want more vintage business, but because for the good of the hobby, for all of us, in order for it to grow, we need to have...
You threw me out.
There he is. We need to have the...
You threw me out.
Basically, Cage, I was just saying we need to shine a light on vintage, not in a persuasive way to tell you almost why to buy it because it's a good investment, but more just educating people because vintage is so cool, guys. I'm telling you, we come across all the time, either myself or one of our employees will be interviewing someone to take a position at SGC. They're big LaMelo fans and, they love the shiny cards and all the new sets, just like I do, by the way. But they want nothing to do with it if it hasn't come out in the past 7 years. And that's just we
find
need
vintage
to change that. Someone please take the reins in this hobby. Someone who isn't running a grading company and has a lot of things to do, please start spreading that message because vintage.
If you're listening,
vintage breaks.
Yeah.
Real
quick, define Jordan Fleer. Is that vintage? Probably not.
Everyone says that. It doesn't even matter. It doesn't matter. I don't know, because the vintage collectors often can't believe that, guys like you and me would say an 86 Fleer Jordan is vintage. But then a modern guy can't believe that a card from 2001 isn't, that kind of thing. But here's my line, and someone might steal it, but it's my line. I came up with it. Every single modern collector will one day be holding vintage cards. And every vintage collector, the cards that they own were at one point modern. And if we don't get that through our heads, we're going to be in a bad place in the future where cards are going to age out and the value is going to drop off of them because no one wants to own them. No one appreciates them. And that's a problem. So let me just say this. No one loves their modern like me. I have some modern pieces I'm very passionate about behind me and at home and things like that. But guys, vintage is really cool. It's what helped get us here. So that's a passion of mine. I want to help the hobby grow in that respect.
I know we're going on an hour and 10. I do try to keep these short, but like we said before, I was like, let's keep 30, 45 minutes, but it's more likely going to be an hour. Do you think vintage is tough, right? For people who are newer to the hobby, there's a lot of new entrants. would you recommend, and probably answers both, Cage, feel free to chime in, you go with one of the fractional sites and you go, right down the middle, Mantle PSA 8. It's right there. It's low hanging fruit, or Goudy, whatever. Or do you recommend, maybe go with a low grade and you own the card, right? It's so tough with that.
Sure. I mean, I think it depends, because what you're referring to, it seems, is more the investment aspect of it. If I want to start making the money I was making flipping my prisms on vintage, how do I go about doing that? And that may be a great way for people to kind of scratch that itch of, whether it be, I don't want to say the gambling factor, but that quick, buy sell process, that might be great for them. What I would say is that there are cards, remember, even in low grade. I wish when I joined SGC, I could afford a Goudy Ruth and a 1. Believe me, I could not. And that's before, back then they were probably worth closer to 2,000 and 6,000, 7,000 that they are today. What I would say is this. Let's say you want to learn about vintage. Okay, well, you can buy a card of the set. There are people called type collectors. They've been in our hobby for 100 years. And it's basically the individuals. It's the individuals that basically want to own one card of every set out there. It's usually specific to a certain sport, or you'll be doing it till the end of time. But my point is, sure, you won't be able to afford the green Cobb in the T206 set, but you might be able to afford still a prominent player, but like Sam Crawford in a 1-5. And when you learn about Sam Crawford, you'll realize, man, that dude was pretty good at baseball. He's in the Hall of Fame, and that card happens to be 115 years old. If you're buying a 1933 Goudy card, no, you can't afford Babe Ruth at the beginning, and you probably shouldn't be buying them if you don't know about vintage in the first place, but buy a lower level card. Enter. There's no rush here. The thing that's great that we're seeing in 2022 as opposed to 2020 and 2021 is that the hobby's finally starting to stabilize. It's maturing, and with that maturation, I just want people to be educating themselves. And in fairness to the individuals I'm speaking of, who are the modern collectors that have no interest in vintage, I was that person my entire life. I wish I was buying vintage when I was a kid, and instead I grew up in like the 2002, 2003 years, when patch cards just became a thing. And it was like, oh my God, I have a piece of Mike Piazza's bat. This is just, I'm going to be a millionaire one day. And unfortunately, those cards didn't really age well in time. But my point is I didn't have that outlet. No one taught me until I got to SGC. And I was with kind of the best experts in the world on this stuff. So
my battery's going to die soon, but I love where you're going with vintage. I really do. Peter gonna make me go buy Goudy Ruth Eben Iron since he keeps mentioning it. It's funny. So Goudy. So guys, vintage. You do not have to jump in. Vintage does not always mean Ty Cobb or Babe Ruth, right? Vintage. You know what's funny is things that are old become new. Things that are new become old. It's exactly what you're saying, right? So there are people who collect rainbows now in Prism, right? The front of the card has different colors. Right. I want to get a guy I like and get the silver, the gold. Well, a lot of us can't get the gold. I want to get the silver, the tie-dye, the dinosaur, the elephant, the tiger, the armadillo, whatever they're making now, right? Yellow, red, green, purple, disco. If you're a T206 collector, you don't have to get nuts and get, Ty Cobb. You can get a lower level guy. They also have different, what I would call parallels, but they're not on the front of the card. They're on the back. So type into Google next time you want to look into vintage, collecting the monster from a back perspective, from Ty Cobb backs, which are rare, as all get out, polar bear, the Sweet Capital, the Piedmont.
Serial numbered cards. It's like serial numbered cards before they were serial numbered. That's exactly right. The parallels between the old stuff and the new stuff are there. This hobby actually hasn't really changed much at all. And that's what people don't talk about. They talk about, well, what is the next guy? Who's the next guy that no one's heard of that one day people will hear of? Because that means I can make money. And that's a fine conversation to have. I'm not saying it shouldn't go on, but it's also important that we're talking about kind of, I guess you'd say, the art of cards, that kind of thing. Really the journey that's gotten us here. So,
and guys, listen, the next one. I like Principe, right? Bobbles knows his stuff. Principe, PDG, EPDG, right? So really quick, I like to give a play. My phone's going to die.
Do we come out with a vintage show?
We should, but here's a vintage play for you guys. Go look up, type in the word Mo Berg, Paul Rudd. Everyone know who Paul Rudd is, right? So there was
Never heard
recently
of
a
him.
movie. I mean, it's Ant-Man, right?
Just
Not
kidding.
Anthony Edwards, Ant-Man. But there was a movie that just came out, I think, last year. Mo Berg was played by Paul Rudd, right? And Mo Berg, if you watch the movie, see that who was Mo Berg. Great story, cool movie. Watch this movie about how he did stuff during the war, kind of like a spy, right? Well, Mo Berg was a catcher, and Mo Berg has a 1933 Gaudi card,
Yeah.
number 158, and you can get a low grade for $100, $200. Vintage is cool. Vintage has stories to it. Vintage has layers to it. Vintage has different ways to collect. And before my phone dies, I love what you're saying. You can collect mod, you collect vintage. You can be a rainbow collector of Prism and a rainbow collector of T2OC on the back, T206 on the back. So
I want to say too, I'm a massive modern collector. Let me just say, like, massive. Like, I love modern cards. I just also love vintage, and I find that people who look like me, that are millennials, share that modern love, but they just not even a little bit on the vintage. So that's what we need to work on here. So
I want to connect you.
Peter,
I'm
we're
sure
gonna have to have you back.
I'd love
Cage
to
is
come
going to
back
bounce.
anytime.
We're going to end the episode right here. I have one more comment for you, Peter. Cage, I love you. You're the man. I want to connect you with Overtime Sam. He grew up, he works for Overtime. I think 4th, 5th employee at Overtime. You'd look at him and you'd be like, this guy's a modern collector, vintage through and through. So I'd love to connect you with him. Last comment, and this is really a testament to you, man. I've gotten to know you 1 month, and I want to echo what Global Sports Card Investor said. You are a stud, man. You are 27 years old. I can't believe you run a company like this. It's incredible. But what's been amazing is you're humble, and you have a great mind. You do right by the community. You do right by your employees. I'm looking forward to working with you. I echo what Global Card Investor said. People would love to hear more from you and your business and your company. You guys are doing good stuff over there.
Yeah, that means a ton to me. I'm legitimately like kind of flattered to hear that. I mean, I don't know, guys. Like, I think one reason that we were interested in partnering is because I'm not going to lie. We know how to treat supporters right, collectors. We know how to grade the cards accurately and consistently, and we know how to work really, really hard to let our supporters know that we care about them. But you know what we may not know so much? Maybe because we're not a big $3 billion corporation. Before we did this, I'm like, wait, guys, am I in the waiting room right now? Or are we live? Are we about to go live? And I think hopefully with your guys' help, guys, and really your expertise in bringing this content, we can kind of pull back the curtain once again on not only who's running this, it's not a me show, but it's an SGC show. It's what this team's about. And that's awesome, man. I really appreciate that compliment. And I'd love to, it's like if people want to hear it, guys, I want to give them what they want. So I'm an open book. I'd love to.
Love you guys.